So for anyone that's new here, this is my business partner, Sean. Sean and I have owned our business together for the past 5.5 years, and our company originally started from my 2-bedroom apartment, and then like a year in?
Yeah, so
we moved into your garage?
I started on eBay, and Paul came up to me. We were playing basketball.
During COVID,
and he was like, basically like, why don't we both do the same shit? Why don't we just do it together?
Yeah.
And here we are today. We have a 9,000 square foot warehouse. We do around $500,000 a month, and it's a real ride.
It's been crazy, but we've learned a lot, and we kind of want to go over how we've been able to increase our margin. So we're at 17-18% like gross margin right now. Yeah, we're pricing, using our software, third-party profits to help us buy better inventory. So more or less, like consistently, our VAs are funneling product leads every single day into our business, and it allows us to create like a portfolio of items, and then we literally just filter down based on margins and ROIs, like what we actually want to meet for buying criteria.
Exactly. Like I'm pretty much like this week, it's literally May 2nd. I've already bought $40,000 of gross profit in 2 days.
Yeah.
Like, which back then, it would have taken me maybe like a week to do that. Oh my God, it's game changer.
And like, how much time have you freed up in terms of buying for our business?
I mean, I literally get in the office at 9, and sometimes I'll leave at 12. So like maybe 3 hours a day. And sometimes I work from home and I'm working like 3-4 hours. And I used to work, 8-9 hours a day.
Yeah,
on
like we literally used to have to go through Google Sheets, and what would take us like days, weeks, and literally months. Like there was orders that we built on Google Sheets that were like, by the time that we added in 60 products from that brand new vendor, the items that we added in were no longer good. And then what happens to a lot of businesses and sellers is that, at the end of the day, like the way that you grow your company, increase your margins, is your cash allocation. Like what inventory are you buying and at what margins and ROIs? And if you're buying a product that's a lower margin or ROI when you could have bought a different item at a higher margin or ROI and you didn't, simply because you didn't know it existed in your business, you invest money into a product that's a lower margin, like inherently you will start lowering your margin in your business. So I feel like the biggest difference in our company over the course of, like I would even say the past 6 months, pretty much since we started using the software, is that we've started buying smarter in our business. Like we know now what items we should not be buying in our company and the items that we should be buying regardless of what vendor we buy it from.
Exactly. And another thing that you kind of mentioned that brings me to another point is that the consistent influx of new leads that come in daily. Yep. Our VAs, and this is why I love the structure, is that we work during the day and they work at night. So when we come into the office, I'm looking in the PO report, we have $900,000 of potential cost of goods. And we're obviously not going to buy all of that. Right. And that's the beautiful part. I could choose what to buy that's the best product in that entire leads list. Right. Just like any other business, you need consistent leads.
Big problem that sellers face is that like when they're trying to find products, it's more out of desperation to buy inventory, right? Like I need to make money, I need to find products. Whereas what you want to be able to grow and scale your business to is where there's so many product leads that you can be selective. Because once you can start picking and choosing the products to buy, regardless of the supplier, that's when you start increasing your margins and your profits, because you're simply buying the best inventory that you can rather than buying the inventory that you just have access to or that you think is profitable.
You can actually leverage the software to get better pricing with your vendors, because you could literally download a file of 100 products and then pretty much send that to your vendor and get ask pricing. Their ears are going to pop up.
Let's say for someone that maybe is a little bit smaller, like looking to scale their business from 100K to 500K, like how does someone go from 100K to 500K?
By acting like a big fish. Because at the end of the day, if you act like a big fish, you'll become a big fish. Yeah. So it's like, it doesn't matter if you have $100 in your pocket. If you talk out loud and you're the guy that's the most confident in the room, you're going to end up winning.
And I think that's a big reason, like it's very cliche, but a lot of business owners will say that who you surround yourself with is a direct correlation to the results that you see. And I do believe that in order to like grow and scale a business, you need to mentally believe that it's possible before it ever happens. Like you can't, if you're thinking like from a limited standpoint, you will never be able to grow because you need to think bigger. When we first started our business, I don't think that we would have ever thought that we would have been able to sell over $20 million on Amazon.
No, it just happens when you show up every single day and you're consistently there and you work 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day, and you're working for free. Eventually it's going to work. And if it doesn't work after maybe 3-4 years, then like maybe hang up the towel. But most of the time, if you put in enough consistent effort, it's going to end up in your favor. You're outworking 99% of everyone else.
Right.
So what is going to happen? You're going to become the 1% of the people that you now look up to. That's exactly what all of those people did.
Yeah. And it's just crazy to kind of think about going back like years ago from our business. I mean, I remember looking at one of the first distributors like that. You probably know who I'm referring to.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
We opened up this account and we literally thought it was like a gold mine, right? Like, and we bought profitable products from them and it jump-started our business, but we got access to like 20,000 products and we were like, oh my gosh, like we stumbled upon gold. And then the pricing really wasn't that great. And I think once we started opening up more accounts and we got access to like the bird's eye view of the United States supply chain, like what we can buy these products at wholesale costs, everything changed because we realized that it was the wrong vehicle. That vendor wasn't the right vehicle. There was no relationship. We started getting access to more products and more inventory and we were like, wait a second, like this is how people are making money.
Right, exactly.
You know,
and that's like another thing is that once you realize that you don't have enough money to spend is when you know that you have a nice system in your business in place.
Right.
And that's the whole point of using third-party profits is that you always have products to buy.
Yeah.
But you need systems and you need to put in the additional upfront legwork to open 1,000 supplier accounts. Obviously, maybe that's a little too crazy,
like
but
100.
You need to have that level of thinking, I'm gonna open up 1,000 accounts. Even if you only open up 100, at least you hit part of that number that's gonna ultimately make you find the success that you're looking for. So
yeah, and then something that I mention like frequently is that when we scaled our business to like higher revenue numbers, and then we realized that, wait a second, we started growing in top line, but like we could actually sell less and make more money. Like for you, because I've mentioned it for me, but like for you, what do you think was like that pivotal moment where you realized in our business that we were going down a route of like lower margin inventory, not better inventory?
So I think I realized it when I saw our expenses were increasing, but our gross profits were not correlating to that increase. At the end of the day, expenses have a certain cap to them. And when those expenses hit that cap, if your profit's not growing, you're not doing something right.
Right.
So that means that when we were in that position, we were just buying shit to flip shit.
Without even realizing
Exactly.
it.
You know, so now we've kind of known it's like, it's not about top line revenue. You could do $1 million a month and net 2%.
Right.
I'd rather do $250,000 a month and net 15% or 10%.
Right.
And at the end of the day,
whatever. Less work.
Exactly. And even if the dollar amount at $1 million is higher in terms of net, that doesn't mean you're taking home that amount. There's a lot of leakage in this business that people don't talk about.
Right.
And that leakage can easily eat up the 4 or 5% margin that you have.
What we notice in our business is that pretty much we audit our products. Like Sean and I, we are very, very specific on the data that we look at in our company. Like we try to get very granular on everything. And maybe that could be a little bit over the top, but I think it's benefited our company. And the reason why is because we literally understood like, okay, we sold 2,000 products over the course of a year. We could have done more in profit, not revenue, profit, with a higher margin selling a quarter of the inventory that we did. And that's when everything clicked, at least for me, because I was like, wait a second, like, why are we going through and putting in all these POs of all these different AZINs that weren't that great? And in reality, what the issue was is that we were looking at the product, right? How fast it was selling and the velocity without realizing that you could sell a product that makes you $1 in profit per day and sell it 100 times a month, or you could sell a product at $10 in profit or $10 in profit per sale, sell it 10 times a month and get to the same number. Exactly. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is profit and turning over that inventory.
Right.
Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, 100%. And another thing that sellers don't realize is the repricing strategy. They see an offer count go up to, astronomical levels.
Yeah.
They immediately price down. But what you can do is you can have a strategy in your pricing so you dollar cost average your sale price. So that way you could sell it at a break even for 50% of the inventory, and then the other 50% you're selling at your max price. So now your 2% margin averages out to a 15% margin. And a lot of larger sellers don't talk about that because it's a big strategy that allows you to sell break-even products at a higher margin price.
More or less what Sean's trying to say is that sometimes when you have money invested in products and you're in need of the cash, there's nothing wrong with selling through a portion of your inventory and then repricing up. So then that way you can capture sales, you can move some inventory, get some money back, put it into other products without flipping it to flip it. You can, keep, let's say, a quarter or half of your inventory, wait for that price to go back up because it will. And then at that point, you sell it at a higher margin when no one's on the listing, and you kind of make back the money that you would have lost on the inventory that you sold through to move it to a different place. Like, the biggest thing about Amazon Wholesale is understanding that this business is about the big picture. There's an item that we sold that we made in small and light when that existed. We made like $4,000, $5,000 a month from that item for a few months, and then all of a sudden the price dropped. And we sold through it. But the thing is that from the macro, from the big picture of our company, we made, $5,000-$6,000 on the item after losing $1,000 in a month. So we still made money in the product, and the margin was good.
There's been products that we've sold $60,000 of profit in a year of, and then there's some months where we sell it at a 2% margin.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to take the emotion out of the business. At the end of the day, it's about the long term. It's like investing. Like, if you invest in stocks and you're down 1 month, but in the year you're up $10,000. It is what it is. Like, you got to take a loss and you got to take a win. As long as you win more than you lose, you're ahead of everyone else.
The thing that I think we realized, Sean and I had this conversation yesterday, is that as you start to grow your business, you start to realize that there really isn't as much competition as you think. Like, in the beginning, when you first start your business, it's going to be hard because you're trying to find suppliers, trying to open up wholesale accounts, trying to get pricing. But then once you start breaking through initial barrier of wholesale, you realize that it's not as difficult as you think in order to scale. It's like the foundational things that need to get learned. And then once you start to do that, it's like rinse, wash, and repeat of just buying good inventory. Like, buy inventory that sells, know how much inventory to buy, and then repeat that cycle and add more products to your business than what you're losing in terms of products that no longer make sense. And you'll grow because you win more than you lose.
Exactly. And one of my favorite things about this business is the barrier to entry. Is that for this business, you could work out of your garage, you could start at home, sure. But in order to really get to the large levels of gross profit and net profit that you want to see, you need to level up and become a business owner. That means having employees. That means having freight relationships. That means going out to dinner with your sales reps. That means doing the things that most people aren't doing because simply most people just,
they treat it like a hustle.
Yeah, that's just the problem.
They treat it like a hustle, and that's why they're continuing to get hustle results, is because they don't understand that this is a real business. Like, we're in a 9,000 square foot warehouse. This is not like a small building, a small facility. Our rent is 5 figures a month. Like, it's not cheap to operate a business like this. And that's why is that we've realized in order to grow and scale our company, we need to treat our business like a business. There's systems, there's procedures in our company that we need to follow. And if we're not following them, then we're not going to grow. And we do it all strategically to understand at the end of the day, what is the only thing that matters is increasing profit. And we make every single decision today in our company to increase profit. If that's not the focus, then we're not focused on the right thing. Whereas previously, we used to always talk about revenue.
Exactly. We're just, let's get to $1 million a month. 1.2, like this loan's going to help us, to get to whatever number. At the end of the day, when what is the quote? It's revenue is vanity.
Yeah, profit
is sanity. Yeah. And it's so true. There's so many businesses, especially Amazon businesses, that are running massive scale operations at very, very low net profit numbers.
Yeah.
And those businesses, sure, the cash flow can make you survive, whatever. But at the end of the day, I feel like anyone wants to be in a business, it's to make money.
It's to make money. Your goal isn't to flip shit. And the thing is, once you start, what we've realized in our business is that once you start going down this route of low margin inventory, you are literally working on paper thin mistakes. All that it takes is a small mistake to wipe out your business. All it takes is an increase in placement fees or low inventory
IP complaint.
fees. IP complaint.
Takes
anything.
Out,
all of the profit, right? You start buying inventory that you can't sell, and the 3% net margin of the seller that's doing $2 million a month can wipe out. And in my opinion, I think there's a sweet spot on Amazon where you could do, 6-figure months to maybe lower 7-figure months where you can net 10% on $1.5 million, make $150,000 a month. That's a very solid business, which you could totally do in wholesale.
There's a sweet spot in this business, like we were saying before, is where your expenses stay stagnant before they increase. And at that level is the best time to scale.
Yeah.
Because your expenses will stay the same, your rent stays the same, your labor stays the same. You can get some equipment to increase your production. And at that point, whatever products you're adding on to your arsenal. It's just bottom line profit. And that's the ultimate
like
goal.
Realistically, out of our space, we could probably do, I would say, like $2 million a month without $1.5 million without having to really like increase our overhead. Like our rent's not going to change. You know, obviously we'd have to bring in more
a couple more
employees,
employees, but that's a direct correlation with the amount of profit you're producing.
Right.
So like, and that's another thing is that a lot of business owners, they look at certain expenses. The only expenses you should be looking at are literally the ones that are producing profit. If it's not producing profit, take it off your slate.
A lot of people, especially people that aren't yet like business owners, right? They're starting to like transition into becoming a business owner, is that they look at expenses as liabilities. Like every single expense, if you add an expense in your business, it's supposed to make you money. Like Sean said, right? So if you go and you add an employee and it costs you $3,000 a month, you can't look at that cost of $3,000 of saying, oh, this is an expense. No, it's gonna produce you income, right? If you go and you get a building or a warehouse, that should be looked at as a vehicle to produce more income. That's the way to think. And if it's not, then that means that you're not making decisions to increase your margin and profit. You're making decisions that are emotional decisions. Every single time that we add an expense to our business, that expense is used as a vehicle to increase profit.
At the end of the day, that $4,000 we spent is going to allow us to access more capital, which we're going to be able to purchase more products, which is directly going to add to our bottom line net profit.
Exactly.
Which at the end of the day, those are the decisions as a business owner you make. And whether it's money, so be it.
Right.
You need to spend a little bit of money to make money. That's just the name of the game.
It's like the same thing as going and hiring someone that's really great at taxes, right? Like you might pay a CPA if you're a high income earner, maybe 20 grand, but they help you save 100 grand. So there's a net positive of $80,000 that you wouldn't have seen by not spending 20. So like as business owners, as entrepreneurs, you can't look at expenses as something that's a negative thing unless it's actually taking away from your business. If you don't need it and it's traditional, just like fat, get rid of it like Sean said. But if it's an expense that will produce you income, supplies for your business is a direct correlation to producing you income. Shipping on inventory is a direct correlation to producing you income. You know, hiring someone or a prep center is there to produce you income.
Software
is there to produce you income.
Software is probably the highest income producing asset in this business for the lowest cost.
Yeah.
So if you're not using software because you're too stingy on the price, you're never going to get ahead because there's businesses like ours that are leveraging software every single day, and it allows us to work less and produce more. Which that's any large scale business is using tech.
Yes, you
Amazon, any business, Walmart, Target, they're all using tech, and that's why they're multi-billion-dollar companies.
Right. And that's why those entrepreneurs are able to do multiple things at once, is because they bought back their time through employees and through tech. Right, and through AI, which allows them to start doing other things. Like I know most people, maybe wholesale isn't the end goal. Maybe the end goal is private label or starting like an agency or starting, you know, a different business. Wholesale is a great business. It produces you cash flow where you can go and take that money and invest it into other places if you're smart and you don't blow it on stupid stuff. Amazon Wholesale is a phenomenal business if you're a serious business owner. It's not for the weak anymore, though. It's really not.
And the people that have the best systems in place are the ones that are ultimately going to come out on top.
Absolutely. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys on the next one.